people. I see you're there.
Hi.
Zuckerberg is working. He's alive and well. He's making this happen for us. Facebook. Oh my gosh. You know, Zuckerberg, it's German for Sugar Mountain. So that's
I did not know
cocaine.
that.
Yeah, that's
Thank you
cocaine.
for sharing that fun fact.
Yeah, this is your TED Talk. You don't have to pay. I'm here at the Stratosphere to get free Wi-Fi. Life hack: get your booty on down to a Starbucks if you run out of Wi-Fi for the month. So it's working for me. Welcome to Comic Spot, you guys. Today, one of the veterans of comedy I get to introduce to you, so you get to know, like, and trust him, and want to support his comedy. Is Will Melendez? He's over there in that square over there.
Hi. How are you, everybody?
Yeah,
Thank you for having
Will.
me, Linda. I appreciate it. It's very kind of you.
So nice of you to. It's so nice of people to give a rip about what I'm doing. I'm not used to this. I'm used to being ignored because I'm old.
Oh no, not at all. Well, those glasses and that lip color would say otherwise. So you
I'll
look
do
great.
anything for attention. That's so true. I would like to read to you the introduction Will sent to me. And I don't steal people's words. That's very hack. You know, you have to be careful. I'm quoting him. So, you know, don't cancel me, America. I'm actually giving him credit
Have
for his.
people come for you for sharing people's bios?
One person said to me, you know, I'm really glad you said that you're reading something I gave to you because a lot of people take credit that they might have written it. And I'm like, okay, I think we're pushing it a little far, but
Yeah. All right.
I understood it came from you, you know. So let me go into his introduction here for you folks. Will Melendez, yes, that's the handsome man over there I'm falling in love with, is an LA based queer Latino stand up comedian. They don't have abbreviations for that. You're going to have to do that yourself. Who's
There's no
open?
acronym.
What's that?
There's no acronym for it.
Yeah, thank you.
Fine.
He has opened for Mark Normand. I think he means on stage. Is that correct? You mean on stage you've opened for him?
Yep.
That's a joke. And shared the stage with Nikki Carr, who I love, Joey Medina, oh my gosh, Maria Bamford. I sound like I'm reading this for the first time because I am. I like to do this in the moment. Will has been featured at the World Series of Comedy and the San Diego, Portland, Aloha, Oak City, and Big Pine comedy festivals. OMG. He has featured at them. Will has also was also a semifinalist at the 2018 and 2019 U.S. Comedy Contest. Will co-hosts and produces Misfits Comedy, a bi-monthly queer stand-up show that features your favorite queer comedians and allies from across the country. And that's what I am. I'm an ally of the movement. You can find him all over. I'll post up his links later. He co produces Misfits Comedy, and I already mentioned that. He's working on his first comedy album, and scheduled to come out if we survive the apocalypse in 2021. He was scheduled to perform at the Dallas, DC, Oak City Hilarious, and the Midwest Queer Comedy Festivals before the coronavirus canceled it. OMG. Thank you for the wonderful intro you supplied to me. Welcome to Comic Spot, the Will Melendez. Woo! Hi,
Thank you for
Will.
having me, Linda. I appreciate it.
Can't wait to get to know you.
Likewise.
You live in West Hollywood.
I do.
Were you born and raised there, or where were you born and raised?
No, I'm originally from Ponce, Puerto Rico. So I was born in Puerto Rico, and then my family we moved over when I was 5 years old. I'm the youngest of four. So Orlando, Florida is kind of where I grew up. So I affectionately call myself a Disney Rican because I actually don't really have any family in the New York area. And whenever people think of Puerto Ricans, they think, oh, you're from New York. So I grew up in Orlando, so I just call myself a Disney Rican. So and then I've spent all of my time on the East Coast. I went to school in North Carolina. I worked in North Carolina for about 8 years. I did spend 8 years in New York before I ended up moving out to LA to pursue stand up. So I'm more of an East Coast guy, but I've been living in California since I started doing stand up about 3.5 years ago.
Wonderful. That leads me right into my next question. As you can imagine, what in the heck were you thinking when you wanted to suffer to make people laugh? I know what I was thinking. What were you thinking?
So and like why I decided to pursue stand up. So I actually did a little bit of stand up in college during my last semester, right before I was graduating. I was part of the Latino student group at my undergrad, and we wanted to put on a big event before we graduated. So I was the MC of the event. We did salsa dancing, singing, and I wanted to do stand up. I had never done it before. But because like we had the stage, I'm like, I'm gonna do stand up. So I did like 12 minutes of stand up. It was super fun. And then I never pursued stand up again. I thought it was for other people. I don't know, for some reason in my head, I thought, even though it was fun and I loved it, I don't know, I just kind of got in my head and I allowed my head to say, no, that's for other people. Then about 10 years later, a friend of mine from college, we had dinner and he saw that like I was doing well with my marketing career, but he thought like, I thought you would have pursued stand up. I just thought that that was for you. And then ever since that moment, I just kept thinking about it, thinking about it, thinking about it, thinking about it. And then once I saw Trump going down the stairs saying Mexicans are rapists, I'm like, okay, like I need to move to California. I have friends out here, and I just need to go where I feel the safest. So then I moved to California, and then I just started doing stand up, and I fell in love with it just like I did that one time on stage, and then I just kept going. So I just felt like that's just what I need to do.
So you moved to LA and you said you live in West Hollywood.
Yeah.
And so you live between the Comedy Store and the other club.
And the Laugh Factory.
And the Laugh Factory.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're right there in the heart of American comedy.
I am.
And so how soon, I mean, have you been passed by those two clubs already?
I haven't been passed, but I have performed all over town at all the major clubs. So I performed at the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory, Flappers, Ha Ha, the Improv, and then I've been able to perform all over the country. And right before coronavirus hit, I was able to perform in Hawaii. I had never visited Hawaii before, and that was fun. The first Aloha Comedy Festival. So that was fun.
You said you were with the USA Comedy Festival. Isn't that Dante's? Dante Richeleli?
Yes. Love Dante and Rebecca. So yeah, I entered that contest in like the 2 year and under category, which is great that they're able to feature people who don't have that much experience, but who love comedy. So I was able to perform with on those two contests. 2 years in a row. And Rebecca and Dante are fantastic. They love featuring newer comics and different comics from different backgrounds. So they've been very, very kind to me. And I've just seen them take so many comics under their wing. So they're great.
Yes. I went and I was with Harvey's Comedy Club in Portland, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And they came and they did the Portland Comedy Festival.
Yep.
And I got to go out on the street with Dante and Rebecca and up to the VA hospital to invite veterans with them. Oh my gosh.
They're fantastic. And I think that's where we met in person for the first time at the Portland Comedy Festival. Yeah.
Why? And I was interviewing the comedians and I didn't get to interview you.
Well, like now there's plenty of time to interview me here.
That's right. Making up for it. So Comic Spot, I love it. I know you've loved it. Let's keep it going. I need your help. I developed it so you out there can get to know comics, whether they're brand new or 45 years in the biz. We're going to get to know them so you'll know who to love. So all I need you to do is donate to my Cash App, and that is Linda Marcus Smith. I would really appreciate it. Thank you. So the first time you went on a major LA comedy club after moving there 3 years ago, how scared were you to do it in LA?
I was petrified. I couldn't eat like the 2 days leading up to my very first performance. And I think the first 9 months of me performing, like the same type of nerves would come. Like I'd be shaking, like I'd be holding the microphone, you could see my hand shaking. It was just very nerve wracking. But I think once you are comfortable with who you are on stage and you know exactly what you're about, I think that's the moment where you kind of turn and realize, like, I no, I want to do this. I want to be up here. This is what I want to do. And some jokes will work, some don't work, but it doesn't really mean anything other than you're trying. So I feel like as long as you feel like you're trying, then I think that's where kind of the nerves go away. So
I just
oh
spilled
yeah,
my
but
drink.
the days leading up to it, they were not pleasant. They were not enjoyable.
I just spilled my drink and I'm scooping everything onto the floor. You
Oh,
wonder what
did
I'm doing.
did we spill something?
Yes, I did. I spilled my entire Starbucks $5 drink.
Oh
For the like,
no.
I picked up my phone just in time so it didn't get wet.
Oh well, that's good. Uh,
So yes, that's what I was doing.
did you get the new iPhone? Is that what you have? Oh,
Waterproofed.
well,
Yes.
mine actually fell in the pool a few months ago, and I didn't notice it until like 10 minutes later, and then I picked it up, and it actually worked. It's waterproof. Like I've had no problems with it. I haven't needed to put it in rice or anything. I don't know who figured that hack out, but good. Your phone is protected in case you drop something, you spill something on it.
Absolutely. So you got up on stage for the first time, and that was about 3 years ago in LA after moving from North Carolina. And then, how have things been going? Who have people come along to help you form your craft? Have you turned around and helped others? I don't like hearing just ego driven stuff. I like to hear the humanity, like who's helped you, who have you helped, what do you plan to do better because of the pandemic, those kind of things.
Um, People have been very, very kind to me out here. So I think like there are some like horror stories about like, oh, some comedians are like terrible, some comedians are this or that or this. I've met some very kind people, and I wouldn't be able to uh, like I guess be where I am today in my career if it wasn't for the kindness and generosity of so many LA comedians. So the queer community has welcomed me with open arms. There are a number of queer shows that exist in the area. So just meeting, so comics like Samantha Hale, Mikey Scott, Teddy Margus, Jackie Steele, they've welcomed me with open arms, and it's been very nice to know that there's a whole queer community of comics who are supporting each other, booking each other, and just encouraging each other to be themselves, and that you don't have to be this exact type to be a comic. You could just be yourself, and yourself is good enough. Brian McDaniel is a white straight male ally who has also welcomed me with open arms. And he is every single show that he books, there's always a queer comedian on there. So he sees that diversity is important in comedy because the more different points of view to have, the funnier the show is going to end up being. Joey Medina has also been a mentor to me. He's one of the original Latin Kings of Comedy, so he's also welcomed me with open arms. So I wouldn't be. I don't think any comic would be able to get to where they are without the help of other comics. There's no. It isn't just your talent; it's also kind of the kindness that you share with others. I recently started a queer show with my co-host Jeremy Pace. So we're trying to bring together different types of comics, not just for queer comics from LA, but also queer comics from around the country, especially now during coronavirus, where we can actually feature comics from like North Carolina, New York, Texas, Phoenix, and
Portland.
then also allies that have been very supportive of booking queer comics on national stages. So yeah, absolutely. Like I want to be able to pay it forward as much as possible. Aiden Park, we talked about Aiden earlier. He's been great. Sharon Houston. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's just so many amazing comics out there who not only are great performers, but also really great people and also value just different points of view to be showcased
Yes.
on stage.
I was in Portland, Oregon. They have a huge LGBTQ whatever else community.
I know the alphabet keeps getting longer, doesn't it?
It does. And like you only got 26 letters, but you can use some twice. It's fine. I won't
Yeah.
complain. And I won't remember them, but and so Belinda Carroll is huge in the Portland community, and she put on queer comedy festivals in Portland year
Hmm.
after year, and queer shows a lot. And so I got to be the person at the door taking tickets and money from people. And it was so fun for me to be there and be around people who aren't like me and
Hmm.
show the support. I also did
Well,
that for the Black Comedy Festivals in Portland. It's
I
like,
mean,
do it.
and that matters, and people remember that. So I definitely, not like consciously, but I definitely notice when there are people who kind of take that extra step to help out, because they themselves are curious and are just naturally engaged and want to see the queer performers, but also like they realize they're like I'm also different. I want to help other people out who are also different. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
that people take notice of that. So
Yes.
that's
It
what I like
doesn't.
to do.
Yes.
Mhm.
So, what advice do you have? You've been in the business 3 years and counting, which is fabulous. Thank you for your service to serve up jokes. It's a sacrifice. You don't sometimes even get paid, or you get a drink ticket, or whatever. And so you're sacrificing so people can cope with
Mhm.
life even before the pandemic. So, what things would you like to say that you experienced in comedy that you had no idea was a part of it? And at the tail end of the question, what things did you experience that you couldn't spend $1 million to, like it was so worth going through something? It's
So the
surprising and
so
really
the
worth
first
it.
question is like, what did I not expect?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess what I didn't expect is like so much camaraderie amongst the comics.
Okay.
So, um, I had no idea coming in. Like, I'm a corporate nerd, had spent 15 years in corporate America before I dove into comedy, and I wasn't sure whether people were going to be like cutthroat, nice to each other. I had no idea what like the interpersonal relationships or dynamics would be like, and I met some really, really great people who genuinely care, who genuinely want to help you if they see that you're talented or if you like represent something completely different than they've seen or uniqueness. That they're willing to give a helping hand and also give constructive feedback on certain jokes. Like, oh, if you change this thing, like I think it'll land better. Like that's a gift. Feedback's a gift,
It
and it's
is.
free. So I didn't really expect that as much as I've seen it. And it's been very nice to see. What was the second part of your question?
What did you go through that's worth $1 million to learn? Like the most valuable lesson. It's a little bit different than the first half of the question where you didn't expect, but what's something that you couldn't go out and pay $1 million to recreate it? Like you met your comedy hero, you got to sit and write jokes with somebody from 1960s comedy. There's got to be some way out thing that is just worth millions. Mine is getting to meet Wendy Liebman and Rita Rudner.
Um, I guess. Um, I guess I have two answers. One is bombing is your friend. So, I mean, bombing is terrible. It's embarrassing. You never want it to happen, but like it's gonna happen, And when you bomb, like immediately after, your mind starts coming up with ways of why it went wrong, and that just ends up making you better. And you can't put a dollar amount on everything that you learn from bombing that really kind of pushes you to think about your stand up in a different way so that next time around you address those things and then boom, like it just completely turns around your set and it ends up being far better than what you originally anticipated. So
I,
that
lo-
lesson
I
is
love
there's
that.
really not a dollar amount to that. Obviously, you don't want to bomb in front of like, certain industry, but it happens. Like I bombed
Yes.
in front of industry, it happens, and I was very sad about it. And guess what? The very next night, I learned from it. I was able to be a lot more myself, and then I ended up having a fantastic performance. So, I think some people find bombing to be like, just like an ego destroyer. I think some people may think like, oh, I should just completely stop because I bombed this one time in front of this person. Like, no, just use that as a learning experience. Everybody bombs. It happens. And I guess like another experience that I had that I was, I guess, like super proud of is just being able to start my own show and being able to showcase comedians who I love that maybe not everybody knows about, queer and allies. I mean, that like being able to kind of give that back to what people have given to me, even though it's just kind of like a small thing or a small scale. Like it's been really exciting. So the
Nice.
goal for like I was pretty depressed. I mean, as we all were, but like
Yes.
I was not writing. I was not doing anything creative. So now bringing back Misfits comedy with my co-host has been, it's been really fun and exciting. And it's not the same as like being able to perform on stage, but seeing comedians like meet each other who've never met each other before and like genuinely like have a nice spark and connection, like that's pretty awesome. So
Yeah.
I see it when other comics do it and produce their own shows when like they see like comedians meet each other, how like cool it is. Like so it's been pretty cool to do that. So that's been really exciting. So
And that's the humanity that I'm talking about. Like when you're out creating a
hmm
better existence for other people, it raises your like it can lift your depression.
yeah, totally.
So
Yeah.
so
No,
now now
absolutely. Yeah.
now you get to say anything as your final plug, and you get to ask me questions because he expressed a desire to know things about me. So I said, why don't you interview me at the end? So
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I want to know about you, your background, how you got into comedy, and maybe one of the reasons why you're doing the comedy stuff and interviewing. I mean, I imagine this is very enjoyable for you to get to know comics. I want to know more about you.
okay, thank you. Well, the thing is that people say, how come are you so good at interviewing? Well, in 1996, I got hit by a drunk driver,
Oh wow.
and I didn't know how to buckle my shoes, and my daughter took care of me, and it was too much for my daughter. And in 2014, she took care of me for 16 years when it was too much for her.
Mhm.
So because of it, we're not speaking, and we haven't spoke since
Mhm.
the day I started comedy. So she needed a break. I needed a break, and I didn't want to live without my daughter. So I called up a comedy club in Murrieta, California, and said, you got to get me on stage. I got to learn today. I need a reason to live," and that's
Mhm.
what comedy has done for me. And
Wow.
I went. My parents. These are all very serious things. My
Yeah.
parents survived the Holocaust,
Oh wow.
and they weren't there for us children. They had their own issues to deal with. So a lot of children have their varying stories. That was mine. And
Mhm.
if I could get my parents to forget what they were thinking about 1938 to 1945 and giggle, then that's what I'm doing on stage. That's what I'm doing here. And because of the brain injury, I'm good in the moment, much better than memorizing and recalling
Right.
information. So that's what. And when the pandemic hit, I've been doing comedy for 6 years, and I was interviewing people at a comedy club in Portland, Oregon, and then I left there, and I so badly wanted to interview people, but no club wanted me to interview people. And then the pandemic hit, and I'm kind of nosy, and if I'm depressed, maybe you're depressed, so I Zoom called people,
Right.
and I saw that their severe depression lifted when I just bantered with them. That's
Mhm.
all I'm doing. I'm just doing more of that. I'm just checking in with people. Tell me about the first time this and the first time that. What do you plan to do after the pandemic? And
Mhm.
this is like not rocket science, but I really listen and I really care. And sometimes you can save a life if you just listen to people.
Yeah.
I'm really serious about that. and even beyond that, I think that comedians are too essential, and we've never needed comedy more than now. And
Yeah.
everybody's sitting at home, and so nobody's telling me no unless
Hmm.
they don't like me or they don't like interviews. And so I'm getting a lot of yeses to come on, and I got lucky that I'm getting people because of the pandemic.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing your story. It's funny how like trauma really triggers, I guess, the vehicle to bring joy back into your life. So it sounds like that's what happened to you. And I applaud you for taking that step, especially after such a traumatic experience. So
Thank you.
my child trauma is rooted in growing up in a evangelical church and not being accepted. And me being me gay, like not being accepted. So that kind of is the root of it all for me to kind of bring joy into all the other people. So for you to be able to share that, I think is very commendable. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, when I'm depressed, on my like not having my daughter in my life is depressing, or life
Hmm.
is depressed. When on a day when I wake up depressed, I make a point of trying to make 100 people laugh
There
that
you go.
day.
That's a goal. You could do it.
And if I only get four, I still feel much better than if it was zero.
Uh huh.
But there's days when I won't stop till I get to 100 because I'm so damn depressed. Can we?
Oh,
Depression is a real thing, and
it really is.
comedians. But
That's amazing goal for you to be able to have. Every single day, 100 people.
if I'm depressed, if I'm really sad about missing my daughter or life or not
Hmm.
having a lot of money or a
Uh huh.
home, renting, whatever, if something's
Yeah.
bothering me, I'll, instead of going inward, I will make a point of, no matter how I feel, trying to make others laugh.
Hmm.
And I have a whole bit about my bus stop comedy career. I literally have done comedy under a bridge to one veteran at a time. I don't care. I've got to make 100 people laugh today.
You could do it at the bus stop. There's nothing wrong with that. And look at where you are. You're there, and you could do it right there where you are at the Starbucks at the Stratosphere.
You'd be surprised when you walk up to people and say, "Would you like to hear a joke?" They'll say yes or they'll say no, one or
Yeah,
the other.
that's fantastic. Oh, so are you living in Las Vegas right now, or you're just temporarily there?
Yes, I was born and raised in Portland,
Hmm.
traveled a lot, and then I've been lived in New York a couple times, in Southern California. I did comedy in 3 counties in SoCal. Moved back to Portland, and now I'm living in Vegas doing comedy here. Yeah, I love Vegas comedy so much.
I got to perform there once. But yeah, it's fun. I'd love to go back, obviously, when all of this is over. Um,
Absolutely.
so is it like super busy over there right now? I mean, I see some people walking back and forth, but it doesn't look like it's like overwhelming.
This is
Well, it
pretty
looks like it's
typical.
super socially distanced.
Yeah, there's maybe you'll see one person walk by maybe every five. There's 2 people walking
Yeah.
by. That's about what you'll see every
Okay.
three, 4 minutes. If it's more
Yeah.
than that, other than workers, it's odd.
Hmm.
You know. So yeah, out on the
Oh.
street, it's scary because there's very few tourists. So tweakers and homeless people have taken over the streets. And
Hmm.
I'm not trying to punch down and make fun of them, but you'd be surprised tourists keep us safe.
Oh wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, wear your mask, socially distance. My roommate actually ended up getting COVID, uh, and we just quarantined in our rooms and wiped down everything when we used common spaces, and then wore a mask whenever both of us were in the living room. And I was able to not get it, so it
Great.
is possible. So yeah, so just wear your mask and socially distance, and I think you'll be okay.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I want you to plug everything that you're doing before we say goodbye. I'm
Sure.
here. I'm here to listen. If you have a show you do once a year, if you have a MySpace that's still open, plug anything you want.
Sure. So I think I mentioned Misfits Comedy earlier. So our next Misfits Comedy Zoom show is this Thursday, August 13th, 7 p.m. Pacific. We stream it on Facebook Live on my page, Will Melendez, and also Jeremy Pace, my co-host. And this week we're featuring Tony Tripoli. We're all Sarah Hart from Phoenix, Sarah Hartshorn from New York, Ray Errol from Phoenix, Drew Kraft from here in LA, Melanie Vesey here in LA, and did I get everybody? Hold on, want to make sure. Yes. Yeah, that's everybody. That's this Thursday, and then we do it twice a month, so every other week. So it's been fun. So yeah,
That's
so
great.
tune in.
That's such a great thing to provide. You know, that it's a sacrifice of your time and your resources. You know, we're not going to lie. It costs money to do stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that for the
It
comedy
does,
community.
but it's very therapeutic. Like this is my therapist, so it's my therapy. So it's been fun.
You come across, you're very well spoken, you're gorgeous to look at. Do you do a podcast?
Not yet, but that's something I've started to think about. But yeah, but stay tuned. So as of right now, I've just been working on Misfits, trying to be creative again, and just like reconnecting with people I love. So I think that's the most important thing that you can do. So like you mentioned earlier, like just you chatting with people. We're all going through depression. I think just like chatting with people is the best antidote to what's happening. So
One time I went to the doctor, Will, and I wasn't feeling well.
uh-huh.
And I didn't know it was depression. I was actually in denial. This is before I was diagnosed. And I went in and I thought it was physical and a physical issue. And the secretary said, "Hi, Linda, so nice. I'm so glad to see you today, blah, blah, blah." I was like, I feel better. I don't think I need to see the doctor. And that's when I realized that, if we are really accepting and loving and caring and listening to other people, we can actually save lives. We can make people feel better.
Human interaction is our nature, and when we're deprived that, like our body physically will react to it in a negative way. So I'm not surprised that like you were not feeling well, and then just literally just the human interaction just ended up making you feel better. So that's what like
Yes.
this show has done for me, because I also was very sad, and
Yes.
now I feel like I can laugh again and make jokes, and but still recognize like the horror show that's going on outside and in this administration. Not to get political or anything, but it's been super helpful. So I applaud you for doing this.
I
Linda.
applaud you for what you're doing. And I'm so glad that I got to have you on here, and I thank you for your time, and I adore Aiden, and to know that you and Aiden are good buddies, it
Yeah.
just like that's it makes my heart tingle to know that the two of you are buddies. So.
Yeah, we are. He literally FaceTimed me like when we were about to start. He's in Montana, so I was like, it's been too long since we've spoken, so we're probably gonna chat after this call. But yeah, it looks like you interviewed him earlier. So
Such a
we'll be
doll.
talking about you.
Oh, good. Awesome.
We'll be talking about this after.
You know that old lady that thinks she's
No!
Jewish?
With the fierce glasses and the cool lip color. Yeah, that's exactly what we're gonna be talking about.
Somebody said this looks like Sally Jesse Raphael mixed with the cat lady or the cat woman.
Oh, I guess I can see that with like the wings. I can see that.
They're $1 at the Dollar Tree.
Oh, don't snooze on the dollar store. You can get some good stuff there.
Absolutely. Yeah. They have early pregnancy tests, and it's too late for me, but still I can tell others.
Oh, absolutely. I can spread the word too. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the interview, Will.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for sharing your story with me.
Yes, thanks for asking. You're the only one that really gave a darn. So, now that you're a graduate of the Comic Spot, every month, if you want to come on and plug something, you can have 5-7 minutes to come on and plug anything.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I will definitely take
I
you up
don't
on the
give
offer.
anybody time for butt plugs. That's a whole nother thing.
Oh, totally. Yeah, yeah. And not during coronavirus. We can wait until afterwards to discuss that.
Thank you so much, you guys. This is Will Melendez. I will post the video with a whole lot of how I felt about him later tonight and all the places you can follow him. Follow him. Follow good people. There are good people in the biz.
Oh,
Thank you,
thank you,
Will.
Linda, so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This was fun.
Same here. Love you lots.
Love you too. Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Everybody's talking at the comic spot, the comic spot.